Writer and editor Jeff Vandermeer is known for his stories dedicated to fantasy literature. He is one of the most important promoters of the New Weird movement, a subgenre of a fantasy fiction characterized by a set of elements of the genre combined with the typical characteristics of science fiction and horror texts. He won a lot of awards, including the World Fantasy Award, and he was a finalist in the Hugo Award. He writes for a large number of newspapers as the New York Times, The Guardian, and the Washington Post, where, with the weekly publishers, where most of his essays and reviews are published. He has a column on a section in the Amazon's blog dedicated to the culture, and he was a special guest in various events such as the American Library Association's annual conference. A comment reported on the book Annihilation quotes, Jeff Vandermeer built a world where the adventure, the fantastic, the unknown are coordinates to indicate the most alien, the human psyche. The main character of the book is a biologist who decides to take part in an expedition promoted by the Southern Reach Secret Agency towards a mysterious X area. With her, there are an anthropologist, a topographer, and a psychologist. The last seems to has the role of the team management, not only doing missions, but also dealing with the other three women psychophysical status. It is the 12th expedition of the Southern Reach Agency. Of all the members of the previous teams, no one has returned. After setting the base camp, the equipe goes to the discovery of a staircase that sinks into the ground. On the walls appear writings made by a chemical. During the analysis, the biologists inhale some spores, but decides to not tell other members. The following morning, the psychologist tells the other that the anthropologist decides to leave the team and the mission. But when they turn up to the staircase, the two women discovered the disfigured body of the anthropologist covered up by the unknown chemical. Back to the surface, they discovered that the psychologist disappeared during the night. The biologist decides to walk towards a beacon, promising to return by sundown. The beacon seems to be the scenario of an assault, of a not peaceful clash, but a woman discovered the trapdoor that hid tens of diaries of the previous expeditions, including those of her husband. She gave up and doesn't read the diaries. She found the psychologist dying, who tells her fundamental information. Returning from the beacon, an alien with the appearance of the topographer tries to trap her, but the alien doesn't survive. Going back to the staircase, she lived a shocking situation. Almost survived, she decides to not go back home. The film has some elements in contrast with the book. The events are substantially modified, so much as to change the meaning. To mention some of them obvious, we can highlight that in the book the names of the four women are never revealed, because in the expedition result being counterproductive to reveal personal informations that defines an identity. In the film, the characters have a conversation full of private informations. Does not reflect the book. Another fundamental changing in the book is represented by the disappearing of the biologist's husband, who wholly in another moment became aware of his precarious health condition. In the film, she accompanies her husband in the ambulance. This event brings to the fallen of the mystery that surrounds the man, because reduces the succession of the events in a mere common list of episodes. In that book, nothing is common. The last about the electronic devices. In a film, the team is equipped with a compass, a watch, and a video camera that allows to watch a tape recorded on a memory card left in the previous expedition. In the book, they only have as device a small sort of radio that lights up in case of danger. Behind this particular, it's either deeper meaning than a simple narrative detail. The film is completely deleted. In general, taking largely in consideration the figure of the main character, the film diminishes the psychological background proper of the book, aiming at major thriller representation. The real main character in the novel is the nature, represented in the creepiest way, not wholly represented as a simple ecosystem, but as an entity able to survive the man, to which it declares war. The main topic of the opera, in fact, is the revolution that the nature makes against the human being. From here, the topic of annihilation, or to say in a better way, the annihilation of the human individuality. Anyone who crosses the threshold of the X area does not live unscathed. The body still exists, but is completely emptied by the nature, which aims to expel the human being itself as a spore, like it's a toxin. Annihilation revolutioned the science fantasy international landscape because it doesn't only describe the situation of something out of normality, full of scenarios, descriptions, and characters who often became ridiculous. This novel distorts the collective thoughts about a science fiction, building up an utopic narrative architecture that results real. The writer was able to magnificate the sense of omnipotence, typical by the human beings, without falling in the traditional science fiction, changing the point of view and making the nature the offender and the man as a victim, although victim of himself. The X area, it's for the man what the M is for the animals. A higher power which actions results as incomprehensible. As the author said, I'm not really a science fiction fan. I like more the thrill and the word, and I actually choose the book Annihilation, reading an article in which Stephen King defined the novel creepy and fascinating, and it's the truth. Gradually starts the trip towards this world, over beyond a physical and a psychological barrier, which captures the reader and makes him a participant. The X area becomes a world that you can't resist to discover between the science fiction and reality. Through the eyes of a woman only characterized by a particular sensibility, I can say that the novel it's not difficult to read. It hasn't got an extremely high register, and also there aren't complex rhetorical figures. It doesn't need. The narration is simple and linear, but rich of reflection points and different topics, as the impact of the human has on the planet and about what we effectively could do to improve this condition.